evening. As I said before, this session is in English. One word of apology. The building goes through renovation, so we will be hearing some noise throughout the session. I hope it won't interfere. But okay, let's go to the subject ahead. Many of you work now in many software companies, have dealt with the issue of migration, which is we have some code, legacy code. Legacy code, in my example, could be code that I've written about 2 to 4 months ago. I'm coming to my code after 4 months ago. I don't understand what I've written. I'm sure it happens to you as well. The goal of this session is how to use the micro frontend approach. I'm sure many of you have heard about it, to continue and live peacefully with your migration. A little bit about me. My name is Midiale. I'm a software developer, full stack developer in Tikal. A little about Tikal. Tikal is a technological home with many technologies, mainly in the open source background. We divided into several groups: front-end, back-end, DevOps, and mobile. Every developer in Tikal needs to step out of his or her comfort zone, and we always try to keep track on new technologies. My session is not about new technology. The technology is there with us for decades, I think. But the thing is that if you want to come to work for Tikal, or you want to work with Tikal personnel, you will get people that are experts in several technologies, but we are experts in mainly everyone has his own field of expertise, but we are we have a very wide knowledge about other technologies, which is great. Okay, and this is about Tikal. A little bit more about me. I'm old. I don't know if I look like I'm an old person, but I am. And therefore, I had to work with many old technologies throughout my software programming experience. And as I've mentioned before, I've struggled a lot with code migration. I don't know if you're familiar. I think that some of you are familiar with ASP.NET Web Forms. I think some of you work with it. Yes? Oh, you did. Oh, great. Not great technology, but great that you did. I used to struggle with migration throughout my career. Also, I'm trying to work for world peace. It's not that I won any beauty contest, but I think, and I don't mean this kind of world peace. Okay, you're familiar with this battle of framework, right? But the world peace I work about is between our new code and our old code, it's a picture of someone about 12-year-old and the same person, 43 years old. Our legacy comes back to us every now and then, as you can see. Okay, the thing is that most of the time when we come and face old code, legacy code, what we are saying is, who wrote this? This piece of code should move away. I'm sure you have heard or maybe said some stuff like this. Eventually, we cannot, in a short time, and maybe we cannot forever, lose our legacy code. So we can't beat it. Why? We can't beat it because rewriting is expensive. Let's say if you work in a Scrum, we have several tasks to accomplish in one sprint, right? And if we add to the sprint rewriting, we won't be delivering. Let's say that we have to rewrite and we have to reverse engineer some old code because the requirements are not always there for us. We come to an old system. I'm sure you're familiar with this phenomena that we come to an old system. We are trying to figure out its behavior. Maybe if we are new to the team, okay, and we cannot determine what was the requirement about 6 months ago, a year ago. Most important thing, we have a management that won't let us, for the reason that I've mentioned earlier. Okay, it is expensive. We will break the old behavior, and we shouldn't, and it will cost. And because it will cost us, management won't allow. All right, so micro frontend to the rescue. What is a micro frontend? I won't be talking much about micro frontend, just how to use it to reuse, to live peacefully with our legacy code, and maybe slightly to change it. But change it but with fewer risks that rewriting will be. So, if we actually can't beat our legacy code, let's move away. What is move away? We have some web application. We can build another web application. The thing is that the user shouldn't feel that they work with another web application. So we are staying in the single page application area. All right. So it's a single page application, but actually we have more than one application to work with, and of course these applications should be interacting with each other. And keep in mind that these applications are can be written with another framework, could be written with use another standards, because I hope that we are no longer need to support Internet Explorer 8. I hope. Does anyone support Internet Explorer 8 nowadays? You don't? No. Great. Internet Explorer 11? You do? No? Life is great. The customer that I work for currently needs to support Internet Explorer 11. And this is hard. But we have some old application that supports Internet Explorer 11 or maybe even earlier, and we have another application. Now we write another application that doesn't, but those applications need to work together, needs to interact with one another. So, what we need? Single page application look and feel. As I mentioned before, we are still in the area of single page application. We don't want to mess with the user experience. Router outlet. I'm using the Angular terms, but router outlet is like we have some content window that or content part of the screen, and whenever we change the application route, it should be the content window should be changed. Does anyone work with React? No. With what framework do you work with? Angular? Angular. All of you. Great, because my demo is in Angular. One with vanilla JavaScript and the other one with Angular. So, okay, so we will understand each other. Okay. And are you familiar with microservices? Okay, so what micro frontend tries to do is to bring microservices to the frontend, which means that we have interaction in the client, service bus like discovery and everything. I will show you how we do it with technology that with us for, I think, for at least 2 decades, 20 years or so. All right, so let's look at this structure. We have, in micro frontend, we have a shell application in here, and we have 2 or 3 or more micro applications. Eventually, if we have one application that is legacy and the other one are less legacy, it doesn't mean that we will eventually get rid of this legacy application. It can still be working. If it's working, don't touch it. You do familiar with the sentence, right? Not everyone like it, but you do familiar with it. It's working, don't touch it. The old application can be run for as long as we can. All right, so our demo. I chose the, I don't know if you're familiar with the API that of tvmaze. Okay, there is API of tvmaze.com. It's for shows, schedules. So you can, it's an open one. You can interact with it, play with it. So we have 2 micro applications. Sorry, it's written 3 by mistake. It's one shows the show schedule, and the other one show details. The show schedule written with vanilla JavaScript, just a simple page. Let me just I'll show you how it should look like. There we go. The schedule and get schedule. My apologies for the UI. It is some legacy code. I just hit get schedule, go to the tvmaze.com and get the schedule and show it. That's it. I can show you the actual code that I've written. So in here, show schedule, right? So here, when I click the button, I go to get show schedule, which goes to the make HTTP request, and with a little DOM manipulation that I'm sure you're all familiar with, just create list of shows. That's it. No data binding, everything. I didn't use any framework whatsoever in here. All right. Get show schedule. Just let me show you what is. So here, I use the fetch. Do you familiar with fetch API? You do, right? For those of you who doesn't, it's the new XML HTTP request, and it returns promise. And here I handle the promise and return some data. All right. So, and the shell application uses some library that I've written that manages the application, application interaction, the application load, and stuff like this. Okay, it is legacy, so we had to use iframes. All right. The thing is about iframe. The iframe has two problems. One, the iframe had very bad reputation, bad image. Nowadays, iframes are used for commercials, for ads inside our page. I told you that we have a technology that is with us for many years. Nevertheless, I use friendly iframe. Friendly iframe is iframe that comes from the same origin. Origin is same IP or DNS name and the same port. Okay? Because if the iframe aren't friendly, we cannot interact. We can interact, but in a very limited way. When the iframe is friendly, so the iframe and the hosting page comes from the same origin, they can do almost everything with each other, which means that the iframe has a global scope, the iframe host has its own global scope, and you can actually operate a function from the iframe to the global scope and vice versa. Post message is very standard way for iframe communication, for web worker communication. And if we are not friendly iframe, we will be very limited on the post message area. So, and of course, we will not operate methods from one scope to another. So, it is very important that the iframe are friendly. So, what you can do in deployment-wise is you can get the application to work on the same site, which is on the same origin, or you can use, if every application comes from different origin, you can use a reverse proxy. Nginx, for example. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Nginx, but almost every web server can be used as a reverse proxy. Nginx is a very good one. So I suggest if you don't know Nginx, go and learn it. It will take you about 5 minutes, I think, and you will learn it and live with it happily ever after. All right, so making the shell app. So in the shell application, we're using this library that I've written. The library has a method that registers the application, or init the application, and you can see that I have here, an application ID, entry URL, which is the actual URL that iframe get its source from, title that can be used for a navigation bar, and okay, that's it. Let's move once more to the navigation bar. You can see here there's a schedule, and here shows. I can search for show, for example, let's say show that contains the word to. Okay, we get the shows, and here if we switch to another screen, the show doesn't have any image, but there are show that does. I've registered both applications, and you could see it. All right, so routing. As you can see, that every application has its own ID. So whenever I switch route in the URL, you can see that the content window is changed. So you're all familiar with Angular, and you're familiar with the router link directive and the router, right? Okay, let me just elaborate something about it. What do we need in order to have router link? Do you know what the difference between anchor tag and a tag that has its router link attribute in Angular? Have you ever looked through the code? I'll explain it. When I have even an inner link without hash, but that doesn't start with hash, just a link with a URL with an anchor tag, href. When I click it, the application will reload itself. Okay? What the router link does? The router link handles the click event and just prevent the default behavior. And instead, it goes and operates a function in Angular. What the function does? Well, go to the router.navigate, and it navigates internally in the application, which is why it's called single-page application, because it doesn't reload itself. Okay, which is very important for the user experience. So in here, what we do is here I used a different router with Navigo. You can search for it in GitHub and just operate another function. So and this is the route handler. This is what you see. Whenever the route is changed, it shows another iframe and hides the other one. That's it. In this slide, just this is what I've explained just now. All right. Let's blend the legacy app inside. One thing we need to do is that we need to make sure that whenever the inner route is changed, we need to see the actual URL changed. Okay? Let's hope it will work. Okay. Let's try. It did work before, but all right, here, why it's important? It's important because we are still in a single page application. So whenever we hit refresh, we need to refresh the page, it should go to the same state. Okay, go to the same screen. So here is the application about to show details. And on the application, what I did, let's go to the app component. Here's the app component, and all right. And in here, I have created a method on the global scope. It is important that the methods can be accessed from the global scope. And in the micro application, we will get another URL, and every application will handle its own state change. So in Angular, there is a location service, and we should call replace state. And whenever the route changes in the micro application, we need to call the we need to have an event that will be dispatched on the hosting page, and then what the hosting page will do is replace the state on the URL itself. So the code is also on the slide. There it is. Here, setState from the hosting application. And on the micro app side, as you saw, I will call this setState here. Whenever the application is loaded, I'm having a context window. iframe has its own context window, and I can run a function on the context window and call setState in here. One more thing that is important for you to look is that I need to send URL and cut the prefix of the actual application URL, which is what I'm doing in here. This is right. And whenever I change the URL in the micro application, I'm dispatching the route change event and send the new URL to the hosting application so it can replace its own state. So I can see the URL changing on the address bar. Okay, and then I can, when I hit refresh, I will get the actual address and with the actual routing inside the micro application. How can we reuse code between applications? Microservices, or even the service-oriented architecture, are familiar with this service bus. What we can do in JavaScript is have our service manager class. Inside the service manager class, what I did is have just a dictionary with service name and execution. What the execution needs to do is just return a promise. That's it. So, let's say that we have code that deals with show schedule. The code with show schedule go to the API, have the schedule returned to it, and do something with it. The very code that returns a promise can be registered in this so-called service bus as a service. And another application, regardless of the framework that it is written on, or JavaScript preprocessor that it's written on, maybe TypeScript, Go, or whatever, it can actually use it because it's only JavaScript. Eventually, all web applications are HTML and JavaScript, and this is something that we know, but we need to keep it in mind. Nothing that, can prevent us from actually use code from one application to another as a service. It works on microservice. It should be working on the front end as well. So one more demo. Whenever I call the get schedule. Okay, I've written something on the console about the schedule that is there, but let's go to the source code. All right, and the source code, you can see here 2 frames. One is the schedules and the other is show details. I'm here on the show details application, as you can see, and let's go to the schedule code. Here is the method of show schedule. Let's make one breakpoint, set one breakpoint in here. I will enlarge the code a little bit so you can see. And when I hit get schedule in one application, in the other application, you can see that it stops on the breakpoint on the other application. Okay, I didn't do any magic in here. All I did is just register the service in the shell application as a service bus. So, okay. The method is here, the get show schedule. I have another let's skip back to the iframe. There's a shell app client in here, and let's see, in here, this is the register service. Let's just scroll a little bit. Oh, sorry, not in here. Here's the show schedule. Here's the register data service. The register data service has service name and the actual function. It's functional programming, very simple one, which JavaScript is good about it. And there we go. So the shell application actually, and the other application actually doesn't know what is the function that we are executing, and it doesn't really matter. All it matters that there is a function that works, and we can reuse it from another application until we will eventually rewrite it, because we need to migrate and we need to move to another standards. But we have time to do it, and we have until then we can have code reuse with our old legacy app. Do you have any restrictions about working with iframe? Or you don't know? What do you do when you have with your legacy code? Now, you do have legacy code, I'm sure.
I'm stuck.
Hmm?
Now I'm stuck.
You're stuck?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you share with us, not to reveal any secret, but what keeping you stuck with legacy code? You need to dive into old code and change it and add feature to it?
Yeah, basically it's like a monolithic, a big monolithic front end that I need to all the time adapt to from one application to another.
One application to another. So you do have one legacy code, big monolithic application, and you have one new application.
Oh, I have like my backend. It's a microservice.
Microservices. Okay, yeah. Which is great.
Yeah.
Okay.
The front end, I don't know what to do. I'm just adding to the.
What your front end is written with?
Vue.
Vue.
Yeah.
Legacy. Vue is only with us for about 4 or 5 years.
No, not legacy, but I have some problems.
You do?
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Okay, so you can also you can divide your application to many apps. Maybe using iframe, maybe not. You can use. There is one library that I am working with called Single SPA, a single page application, and it can host many frameworks inside. The thing about Single SPA that it doesn't work with iframes. Okay, I've explained about iframes, but you can actually have your code one micro application goes on one HTML element and the other goes to on another HTML element, and you can show and hide HTML elements. I don't have any demo about Single SPA in here, but I can just shed some light about it. The Single SPA, not like the iframe, it works on the same scope. So on one hand, it will be easier for you because you don't have any limitations. Maybe somewhere in the future, even friendly iframe will be restricted. We don't know. It doesn't seem so, but maybe it will. But you won't have any limitations from in single page application. You can also work with custom elements. You know what custom elements are?
Web components?
Yes. It's one standard of web components. Yes. So there is an example about code that works with on custom elements. Also the same. It works on the same scope. You don't live in an iframe, so you can go on the same scope. The thing is that if you have if you're using cookies, each cookie on a different to a different API, different microservice, it will give you some problems, some challenges, because the path you're staying in the same path. If you're in an iframe, the path is different for each iframe, because there is for each iframe has its own source, so the path is different, so cookies are different. You live in a different context. One more, okay, this is one more disadvantage of iframe is that your browser gets, maybe if you have 2 micro apps with Angular, your browser needs to load Angular twice, for example, or maybe more than twice. So the thing is, iframe are very much isolated. So if you're using style sheet CSS, it will get stuck in another iframe. And bundles are heavy. So every micro app that has its own bundles, the browser will load it for each iframe, so it will be very heavy, and performance are very poor. Nevertheless, on Single SPA, I've seen the same poor performance that iframe has. So web component is less isolated, but you can, if we use web components, we can also have our own shadow DOMs, which gives us isolated styling. and we can create custom elements. We don't have, if we have custom elements or working with a single SPA, we don't have to build this global pub/sub as I've shown before. The same service bus, but it won't help us with our few years old legacy code that still uses iframe. And moreover, if we have to support Edge browser or Internet Explorer 11 and below, it doesn't support custom elements. About Edge browser, it doesn't support custom element yet, but Internet Explorer 11 and below won't support it, will never support it. So, all right. Okay, let's wrap. We have legacy code, we can extend it with using micro frontend. And micro apps can be blended, we can even achieve code reuse if in the same single page application. I've tried to show you about inner routes. It didn't work that well, but it will, when you will clone the, I will publish the GitHub URL on the meetup page, so you are welcome to clone it and play with it. I did show you about service reviews, but I've requested show schedule from one application and ran the code on the other application, which was the so-called legacy application. We didn't achieve world peace, of course. We were very few, and the world is big, so we didn't achieve. But nevertheless, thank you for coming. Have a pleasant evening.